Youngins, the most unorthodox show on the globe. I am one of your hosts, Myra King.
This is Desi Dez.
And it's your boy Mojo in the building, and we got a very special guest with us as usual, but this one in particular, very special. You know, we've been searching, and this man here, you know, his name ring bells if you think about it. So I'd like you to introduce yourself, sir, and let the people know who you are.
How you guys doing? So my name is J.R.Mckee. I'm a streaming executive. I've been in the industry for about 15 years. I currently hold the title of head of digital sales and revenue at Alamo Records, which is your Ride Waves, your little Durks of the world. And so, mainly my main position is to just work with DSPs, as digital service providers, which is the Apples, the Spotifys, Pandoras of the world. And so I pretty much oversee the communication with those guys, and just oversee streaming strategy.
Okay. And so you have a long catalog of work in the industry.
Yeah.
That I could see. Yeah. Well, for starters, you're from Cleveland, Ohio, correct?
Yes. My whole family's from Cleveland. I was actually born in San Diego.
Okay.
Because my dad was in the Navy.
Okay.
But my majority of my life, my early life was in Cleveland, Ohio, with majority of my whole family. I mean, my grandparents had 16 kids, so it's a huge family up there.
Oh, okay.
Wow. That's nice growing up with a big family.
Listen, man, as he should, give back to the community.
Yeah.
That is your mission. Now, listen, how is that? 16 people in the house. I mean,
well, you know what? It's crazy. So we all come from this one particular project. It's called 30th. And so my grandfather and grandmother lived in a 3-bedroom project apartment. And imagine 16, children coming out of there. Now, of course, when you have 16 kids, you're going to have your grown ones and your young ones. So as people got older, they moved out. So it wasn't 16 at once, but the traffic was incredible. And then you have grandkids, like even I was there. You know what I mean? So it was, I don't know, when you're that young, it just feels like life. You don't know you're poor. You don't know any of these things. It's just my life. You know what I mean? So it was pretty cool to me. I didn't have no issues with it.
I can imagine holidays would be hectic.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. The holidays was amazing. You know, my grandfather was an incredible chef. My grandmother cooked. So, I mean, holidays was amazing. It still is. I still go back there for Thanksgiving and different holidays. So it's a good life. I think, the larger the family, the more stability you have because you have more people to lean on. And so I want to create a large family. I only have one daughter now, but, my goal is to create a large family as well.
Yeah.
So you actually got into the industry, like you started off throwing your own events, parties?
Yeah, so my mother married my stepfather, and they moved to Mississippi. My grandmother was a huge entrepreneur, and she owned a lot of real estate. She just owned a lot in this little small town, but one of the properties that she owned had a nightclub in it. Like she basically owned like a block, what do you call those, shopping centers?
Okay.
Yeah, so she basically owned something in that vein, and part of it was a nightclub. And so she allowed me to start. Well, she sort of pushed me to start throwing parties because I had been selling go deep in the story. I had been selling throwback jerseys, and White T came out, and Jay-Z came out with the line about he don't wear the jerseys. So it basically killed my business. Like throwback jerseys was like crack. Like I was buying them for $30, $40, selling them for $800. So I was making a killing. Yeah, I was making a killing. I was talking about I'm making $1,000 a day, thousands of dollars a day selling throwback jerseys. Until again, franchise boys of White T, Jay-Z had his little line about the button downs. And it literally killed my business. And so I remember just being super down about that. And she was like, listen, you could throw some parties at the club and make some money. And so that's what I ended up doing. I got really good at it. And that's normal. Like normally if I put my mind to something, I'm going to be successful at it. You know what I mean? And so I got really good at throwing parties. Everybody from the artists to other DJs in the city, they started wanting to come because, I had this big crowd of people. They started wanting to come participate, and they want to perform or they want to make sure the record get played. And so it kind of just intertwines you in that life. And so some of the people that I got really close with ended up having a big hit song. And when they did, they sort of just took me along. I didn't have any aspirations of being in the music business. They sort of just took me along, and I kind of became their manager, kind of by default. Like I didn't even know what a manager was, but these are my friends. They're doing things, they're making money. I started handling the business for them. You know what I mean? Just because I was their friend and I was a smart enough person that they trusted to do that. You know what I mean? And so that was my entry into the world of the music business. And once I kind of figured out, man, the person who making all the money here is the label. I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna start me a label then, because that's where all the money's. We had generated millions of dollars. We sold like multi-platinum ringtones, multi-platinum record. We had been on the road, and I'm just like, we had little money, they had big money, and I'm like, oh, that's where the money is. You know what I mean? And so I started a label, and so that was like my entrance to the music business. Again, it never was a dream or anything like that. I always just wanted to be a millionaire. That was the only dream. Like, how am I going to get rich? You know what I mean? And so in my mind, it was always business, but it just ended up being music business.
Hey, you noticed it was little money because you had money. Where somebody without money, they probably would look at it, this is a lot of money.
No, what ended up happening is we made a lot of money on the road, because that's normally how the artist makes money, from doing their shows and stuff like that. But when the ride was over, we came home with no money because, and this is, a mistake that I learned early. I believe that this was just the beginning. This is going to last forever. This is my new life now. Like thousands, really more like tens of thousands of dollars a weekend is nothing. I can spend it on this. I can spend it on that. This is the beginning. We're going to be making this for the rest of our life, but it didn't happen like that. Our record got hot. We put out an album. It did very mediocre. You know what I mean? And before you knew it, the ride was over. And so all of that money that was just falling out of the sky stopped falling. But as it fell, I was spending it right back out. All of us were, because we wasn't thinking like, I need to save this, I need to stack, I need to find a way to reinvest this. That was not my thought as a 19-year-old. As a 19-year-old, my thought was blow this money. You know what I mean? I got more next weekend, because that's literally what it was. Every weekend, more money came. You know what I mean? But once that ride is over and you come home, like back to your regular apartment, you're like, hey, wait a minute. We was making a lot of money, but who really was making the money was the label, because they're still generating. To this day, that record still makes money. We not seeing any of it because we aren't the label. You know what I mean? And so I kind of always having a business mind. I break down and analyze any situation. I break down the business. You know what I mean? I'm seeing where the money flows in, who's making the money, who's essential to the business. I don't know. That's just how my mind works as an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? I should have talked about my father a little bit more, but my father, when I was 12 years old on, made me read books, like to the point where if I didn't read this book, I couldn't go outside and play. You know what I mean? And the books were about entrepreneurship. They were about marketing. They were about business. He got out of the projects by becoming a nurse. Like, he got out of the project through school because my grandmother was a nurse. And so literally out of the 16 people in the family, I would say a third of them are nurses, because that was their way out. That was the route that they viewed to get out of the projects that we were living in. You know what I mean? But even though he took that route, he understood there was a better route. And so he kind of forced the better route on me. He made sure I knew exactly how to be an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And so anyway, long story short, once we got into actual life as a 19-year-old in business, my mind just worked different because I had read all these books and I understood entrepreneurship and I understood business. So I broke the business down. And so I knew that the label had all the money. And so I started a label. I'm like, okay, if I want to really make money in this business, I need to start a label. So that way I'm not waiting for a check every weekend. My check is for life. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. And so we went and started a label. I think I was 20, going on 21 when we officially started it. We signed our first artist because we had a lot of hype from being on the road. Like, this was back on MySpace. So imagine the same way somebody could be popping on Instagram right now for running around with Lil Durk. Okay, well, I was popping on MySpace for running around with the artists. You know what I mean? And so I used, so I used that popularity to sign another artist, to sign my first artist. And so that's how I signed my first artist. And again, I didn't have any money. I had blew it all on the road. So we signed them for free. We didn't have any money to push them. We just pushed them on MySpace. Like we literally just sat there every day at the computer, commenting on fan pages, DMing fans, just writing fans, just interacting with fans, just building the fan base, putting up our music and sharing our music. And it worked out for us. And so that was kind of like my intro again into the music business before I really got deep into it, because those first few years, it was us by ourselves. It was just our little team. The same way you guys are 3 building this team. And as you guys continue to grow, more people start to come in. Well, in our first 3 years, it was like you guys. It was just our small little group on MySpace in Mississippi, grinding, trying to make something happen.
Now
you're on the road. You're on the road at this time. You have the artist. You said that you all basically blew the money. No more
flying flash.
No more money was coming out of the sky. You had these artists. You still had this business mind, these dreams, these goals, these aspirations.
A lot of chains and rings.
Right.
No more bills and dollar thrills.
Right. And so you figured out like, yo, I need to start a label. So you start the label. Yeah. How was that whole process starting the label?
Hey, this your boy Desi Des.
And it's your boy Mojo. And if you like what you are seeing so far, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the page. Please. And if all else fails and you like what you talking about as far as this merch-wise, baby, hit us up. You know what I'm saying? Check us out on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook at TwistedYounginz with a Z. You know what I'm talking about? Make sure you give us an email at twistedyounginz@gmail.com for all promotions.
Where's it at? At twistedyounginz@gmail.com.
Yes, sir, with a Z. And also, if y'all don't like what you see right now, as far as merch-wise, we got more merch, and we also do merch.
Do your merch
Send
too.
us in a
we
couple
support
designs.
Everybody.
Yeah, and we do promotional packages, interviews, videos, articles, whatever you guys need, man. Just make sure you hit us up. Holla at you, baby.
Because you also said something to say that if you're going to be a manager, and managers aren't supposed to invest in the artists, but if you are going to invest in the artists, you might as well start a label.
Might as well be. Yeah, because I mean, in business, period, if you invest money into something, you should get equity in return. You know what I mean? That's just the way business works. If you guys are starting a business and I say, hey, here's $50,000, I'm not gonna give you that money for free and just work with you guys while you blow my $50,000. I'm giving you that money because I need a percentage of the business. You know what I mean? And so when I started the label, I started it with a partner. So the group that I was on the road with, they had a friend. This wasn't my friend. This was their friend, but he produced and wrote their songs. Like even the song that blew us up, he produced and wrote that song. So I understood that he was probably the most valuable figure in this whole equation because he was the one that made the music that got us out there in the first place. And so I went to him. And like I said, this wasn't even my friend. We became friends over time, but this was just somebody I knew through them. But I understood the value of him. Like if I want to have a successful artist, somebody has to produce it, and somebody who knows how to write hits. He had already proven he knew how to write hits. You know what I mean? So somebody who knows how to write hits is probably going to be the most valuable person I can bring into this equation. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a reason there's 3 of y'all at the table instead of just 1 of y'all, because all of y'all are adding some sort of value to the situation. Yeah. And so for me, I'm like, I need a partner that's going to add the most value. You know what I mean? I could have started a label with the other artists, but I just didn't see the value in that. I started a label with the most valuable person that was in the equation. And so me and him came together. We started a label. And back then, it's not like now where you can go on LegalZoom.com. We had to like go down to the courthouse and fill out the paperwork to start the label. And that's what we did. We went down to the courthouse in Jackson, Mississippi, put the paperwork out, started our first, well, not our first, it was our only label. We still had a label to this day, still have artists on that label. But yeah, so we started the label. I put out a call on MySpace, like just to see other artists. I ended up finding somebody who I really loved. He was an artist went by the name of The Joker. I ended up finding him. I really loved him. I thought he was very special. He was a great lyricist. You know what I mean? And so I just loved him. And so we signed him. Like I said, we didn't have any money, so we had to just put in all sweat equity. You know what I mean? We just had to work our butts off. Sweat equity and creativity is really all we had to go off of.
Whatever happened to him?
And what ended up happening, he became very successful for that time period. What ended up happening is we came across, and what kind of changed our lives is I came across a company called TuneCore that allowed you to upload your music to, at the time, was iTunes. And generate money, because up until that point, we as a label hadn't generated any money. The only person that was making money was the artist, because he was really big. He was doing shows at that time for like 5,000 and up. You know what I mean? 2-3 shows a weekend. So he was generating a lot of money, but we weren't generating money as a label until they invented iTunes and gave us a way to sell online versus going out the trunk like people used to do. I don't know, for some reason we never sold CDs out the trunk, but iTunes came along and we started selling on iTunes, and that changed a lot. We ended up making I remember the first week I put it up there. I came back and checked the account. It was $2,500, and I was like, whoa, like $2,500, okay. Then about a month in, it was 30,000 in there, and then the next month it was another 30,000. Then the next month, and like literally every month, 30 band checks. And by this time, I was working for somebody. I was working for Boo, who's Akon's brother. He's who ended up becoming the vice president of Def Jam. I was an A&R on his staff, and I remember coming to him and showing him this $30,000 check, and he fired me. He fired me. He didn't kick me off the team, but he took me off a payroll. And I was like, okay, whatever. But I didn't care. He was only paying me like $1,200 a month anyway. But it's like I guess he just felt like I don't need his money. You know what I mean? So he took me off the payroll. I'll never let him forget that.
Now,
he took me off the payroll, but I still work with him. You know what I mean? And
I said, did you feel some kind of way after that?
No, not really.
Because it was $1,200,
Right now, I didn't. I mean, I was so well off at that point. You know what I mean? I was like, man, forget those little $1,200. He was paying me $1,200 a month. I'm making 30 bands a month. So it's like, whatever. You know what I mean? Plus, he was like, he's not that much older than me, but this is more like a father figure to me. You know what I'm saying? And so I wasn't tripping. I'm like, it's whatever. I don't care. I'm good. And I still work with him even past, even though he took me off payroll, I still did everything I was doing before he took me off payroll. You know what I mean? So I didn't trip, no.
How did you get to the point where you was A&R? You know what I'm saying? How did you get to the point where you was A&R?
So we moved to Atlanta when I was 21. And so that's myself and Joker, Fruit, who's my partner who produced all the records. From then all the way to now, he still produces all our records. He was about to get married, so he stayed with his wife in Mississippi. But I moved to Atlanta, Joker moved to Atlanta. And so one of the ways that I was making money, because remember, we didn't start making money until, I didn't say this, but when I turned 23 or 24. So I moved to Atlanta at 21. So there were 2 years when I were in Atlanta and I didn't have any money. I was broke. I was working at Applebee's. The label was doing well. Joker was doing well. He was going off doing shows every weekend, but I didn't manage him. He was just signed to me. And so that's another thing too, is like show money, well, it used to be this way until they invented the 360 deal. But back then, there wasn't the 360 deal. I had him signed to where I owned the masters and I controlled the music, but I didn't control what he did on the road and everything like that. He had management for that. And so his managers got paid, but we didn't get paid as a label. So anyway, so the label's doing well publicly, like in a public space, doing well, like everybody knows this, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not necessarily making any money. So I'm working at Applebee's. So the way that I made money outside of my job was selling Fruits beats. And so I had relationships with everybody. Because when you go on the road with a hit song, you're not doing these shows by yourself. You're doing these shows with all the other hot artists. So I was cool with Young Jock, Franchise, with everybody that was hot in this moment. Young Jock, Franchise Boy, Sonny V, Jermaine Dupri, like everybody that was popping at that moment, I was tight with them. You know what I'm saying? Because we had been on the road for 9 months together. We everybody with the hit songs is all on the same shows. Every weekend we seeing each other. You know what I'm saying? So I had a tight relationship with all of them. So when I'm in Atlanta, I'm selling them beats. And that's one of the main reasons I came to Atlanta is because like this is where they are recording at. I can make money from selling them beats. And so that's what I was doing. I was making money that way. So I say that to say, when I met Boo, he would go out to the clubs and I would be with him. And he like, I was 21, maybe 22, but I looked like I was 16. I always had like a super baby face. So I looked like a child, you know what I mean? And so when he would go to the clubs, everybody knew me. And he just couldn't understand how everybody knew this kid. You know what I'm saying? And so that was the first thing that put me on his radar, is he would see me and everybody knew me. And so not only did they know me, like, but they respect me, like they big up me, you know what I mean? Like this is my nigga type shit. Cause I've been in the studio with him every night. Everybody that was popping at that moment was my nigga, you know what I'm saying? And I was dating him. So when we went out to the clubs, he started seeing that. So that's how I got sort of entwined with him, right? Like he would start rocking with me. And so how I ended up getting the A&R job is he had started his label. It's called Boo Vision. It's still called Boo Vision, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But he started his label and he signed his first artist named Saha the Prince, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with.
Yeah.
So he signed Saha the Prince. So one time, what ended up happening is he went to New York for business. And he might have been gone a week. And me and Saha stayed in the studio that whole week. And when he came back, me and Saha probably had like 40 records. You know what I mean? Like we had been in the studio the whole week, just putting records together, writing records. You know what I mean? And he was just so impressed. I mean, that's a big part of A&R job is putting together records. You know what I mean? Like we're supposed to develop the artist. And so when he saw me do that without him even asking or without, you know what I mean? Like he didn't ask me to A&R Saha. That was just part of my passion. Like I stay in the studio every day. You know what I mean? And so when he left Saha the studio for a week, I was in that thing. Like, you know what I mean? I had just met Saha, but we clicked. You know what I'm saying? And so I was in that thing. So we made like 40 records. And when he came back and he saw that, he was like, yo, I need you to be my A&R. And so that's how I got the job. And so I worked for him for maybe 3 years until K-Camp blew up. Once K-Camp blew up, that's when I stopped working for Boo.
And what was that like, that transition?
Well, it wasn't the smoothest because I signed K-Camp when he was a local artist. Like, you know, nobody really knew of him like that. The city knew of him because he had some local buzz, you know what I'm saying? But he just wasn't no big popping artist. And so I kept trying to convince Boo to help us. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, Boo, I got this artist. He fired. Boo would let us like record in the studio, but that was about it. That was the extent of the help. I kept telling him like, yo, like, you know what I mean? This dude finna blow up. I promise you he finna blow up. And so about time it actually came to fruition and he blew up, then Boo tried to come along and I'm like, my nigga, I've been telling you this for the last, I've been telling you this. You know what I mean? Like, bro, we don't need you now. We the biggest, like literally, when he tried to sign us, we were literally the biggest independent act in the country. I'm like, bro, why would I need your production label? Like, bro, we need a major. Like, we don't need a production label. Like, we're past that already. We're the biggest act in the country, independently. You know what I mean? Like, so it no longer made sense. And so he was not happy about that, to say the least. He was very unhappy that, you know what I mean? And we still super tight to this day. So, you know, these stories is cool because it's been years, you know what I mean? But at that moment, he was not happy, you know what I mean? But, you know, it was what it was. We had already...
Hopefully,
we had already outgrew it.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Hopefully, you learned to trust your ear.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, he had been trusting it. That's the whole reason I was his A&R, because he trusted my ear.
Well, why would he sign K-Camp if he know you ain't gonna lie to him? Like, dude, I'm in the studio every day with this guy. I know what's coming down the pipeline.
My bigger question is, did he hear his music?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Of course, because we was recording in his studio. So how could you not hear his music?
I guess he wasn't feeling it.
I mean, like, we didn't record there full time, but a lot of the times we were in his studio recording.
And so you helped co-found 300 Entertainment?
No, not at all. Now, I actually have nothing to do with 300. Maybe you mean Alamo. I don't have anything to do with 300.
Okay, so Alamo started off as like a partnership with Universal.
So you're thinking about Todd Moskowitz, who owns Alamo. Todd helped co-found 300 and left to create Alamo, which by the way, Todd was actually the first. When we got that record deal when I was 19 years old, that was Todd Moskowitz who signed us. You know what I mean? So like he's literally seen me from a child to now. You know what I mean? And so now I'm his head of digital sales and revenue for his company Alamo.
And so when you met a person over at Umpire at South by Southwest, and they said you were one of the first people to sell a mixtape on iTunes, right?
Right. And so that was Ghazi, who owns Empire. He created Empire. We met, I don't know what year it was, but one year Boo sent me down. Well, he didn't send me. I asked could I go, and he paid for me to go to South by Southwest to look for more artists. And while I was there, this guy named Ghazi, who I didn't know at the time, I didn't know him or Empire at the time. This is a super early film. It was probably I think it might have been a year he actually started Empire. And he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, you're JR." And I was like, "Yeah, what's going on?" You know what I mean? And he was like, "Man, I'm Ghazi. I just started this company or whatever." I don't know if he said he just started, but he was telling me about Empire. And then he was like, "Man, you're the first person I ever saw put a mixtape on iTunes." And I was like, "Damn!" And when I thought about it, I was like, "Shit, I really might have been." But of course, I would expect him to know because that's what he does, independent distribution. And so, because even before he started Empire, he was working for what's the name? Ingrooves. He's working for Ingrooves, which is another distribution company. So he's been in distribution before he started Empire. So I would expect him to be right. But when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I had never seen nobody else do it because only reason I did it is because I saw a beer commercial. And so that's what made me do it. I saw a beer commercial, a Budweiser commercial. And it was like, you can brew it, but can you sell it? And I was like, dang, man. I was like, we can make the music, but can we sell it? I was like, yo, we need to be selling it. I don't know why as a late. Oh, I do know why. The reason I hadn't started selling it yet is because I was expecting to follow the regular model. But the only thing I knew was to follow the regular model of make the music, get a record deal, and they then distribute the music. That was the only thing that existed back then. You know what I mean? Back then, independent artists didn't sell music on iTunes. iTunes had just really got created. You know what I mean? Back then. Before that, it was only in the stores. And so for me, I was like, as soon as we get this record deal, they're going to pay us out. That's how we're going to make our money. That was going to be my entrance to getting money, was us signing a record deal, which today, I still don't know why we never signed one because we were making so much money. I'm talking about after we got on iTunes, we were making so much money that even TuneCore themselves called me to find out how we were making so much money. You know what I mean? And so I don't know how we never signed a deal after that. You know what I mean? So, but we did. We did sign a deal until K-Camp, which I signed K-Camp, and we popped him, and then we signed a JV with Interscope.
Hey, is there any artist that you skipped on that you regret?
Yes, regret is a terrible word, and I hate to say it, but there are two very important ones. So Tunji, who signed us to Interscope, he was a person that we took the meeting for us at Interscope that got us going in that building and got us signed to Interscope, brought me Bryson Tiller. And he wasn't the first one to bring him to me. Bryson Tiller's original manager, Steve, was actually friends with my artist, The Joker, and Steve brought him to me first. And I was just like, I mean, I'm gonna just be honest. I ignored the text messages. Like when he kept texting me like 2-3 times about it, and I ignored the text messages. But then Tunji hit me about it, and I was like, yo, I don't think you're the first person to hit me. And I went back in my text, and I'm like, yeah, Steve hit me about this kid too. And so I listened to the music like from Tunji, and I'm gonna just be so honest about this, even though it sounds so stupid saying it now. I told him I don't think that this makes sense because he talks about the same things K-Camp talks about, and I don't want to make K-Camp jealous. I don't want to have the same sort of energy around K-Camp because I feel like they were talking about the same things. And so because of that, I passed on Bryson. And
Same things like women.
Yeah, like they were talking about the same thing. Like if K-Camp had his Kiss series, that was a full series dedicated to women that he still does to this day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it was like, this guy sounds, he don't sound exactly like K-Camp, but he sounds like they're in the same vein. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I don't think it makes sense. I didn't want to upset K-Camp, and I was just like, I already have a K-Camp. Why would I want two? You know what I mean? So I just passed on it. I was just like, nah, I'm straight. You know what I mean? And then I believe not even 2 years ago, I guess 2 years ago now, because we're at the end of 2020, but about 2 years ago, it was, well, let's just say this. It was 2018 for sure. I know the facts, it was 2018. In 2018, my partner brought me the baby. And he was like, yo, he's like, yo, you got to get this kid. You got to get this kid. And this is after I already knew who the baby was because I had seen him at South by Southwest with the diaper on. I remember that.
Baby G.
and I'm just keeping it all the way funky with y'all. I told my friend if he was gonna blow, he'd blown by now. That's what I told my friend. I said if he was gonna blow, he'd have blown by now.
So you was acting like the other guy that you was working with.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too.
You was acting like the other guy you was working with that wouldn't give K-Camp a chance.
Because it's hit and miss. It's so hit and miss.
Listen. So nobody's perfect. I ain't perfect. Nobody's perfect. Like, bro, like you gonna miss some. You know what I mean? You definitely gonna miss some.
You missed.
Those are the two biggest ones. Yeah, those are the two biggest ones I missed. That I had opportunity to be a part of.
So how did you know? Hold on. How did you know that for Bryson Tiller? Like, how did you figure out I missed on this guy? Like, did you hear his song come on the radio? Or?
No, because Tunchi signed him. So Tunchi wanted to bring me in before he had even did the deal. Like they hadn't even signed him yet. And so, but Tunchi ended up signing the RCA, and then from there, I think it was kind of like a no looking back. Like the next thing you know, he had the Drake co-sign. And then he just, went on and on from there. And then I still was around, like, because Tunchi's my man. Like, Tunchi's like one of my closest homeboys. And so I still was in the studio with Bryson and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I still got to hear Trap Soul before it came out and all that. And I swear to you, like, bro, you get the worst out of me, right? I swear to you, I remember sitting in the studio listening to Trap Soul, like, it's all right. And then when it came out, and I heard it again, I hit Tunchi. I was like, yo, something about the mix. I was like, I don't know what y'all did, but this ain't what I heard in the studio. Something's different. Like this is crazy.
Please, Lord, save her for me. You heard all of that.
Please, Lord, save her for me.
You heard all that, and you said, "Nah, it's all right."
Gotta change.
Like y'all swear, whoever mixed it put some magic sauce on it.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's one of the best albums of the decade. It's one of the best albums of our lifetime, to be honest. You know what I mean? So it's incredible. And stuff like that happens, man. You can't win them all, bro.
I got a question for you. Up until today, what would you consider your biggest loss business-wise? Like, what do you consider you tried to you did everything you could, you put all your time, effort, and money, and you did not get your ROI on it?
See, I automatically something comes to mind, but this is still one of my close brothers. So I don't want him to feel like, you know what I mean? But automatically something comes to mind. I lost a lot of money. Yeah, so like everybody that I work with for the most part, I'm still tight with them. Like you know what I mean? Like these are, once I care about these people, I don't have friends outside of what I do. Okay. You know what I mean? And I really only have like 2 friends that have nothing to do with what I do. You know what I mean? So for the most part, my entire circle has something to do with my business. You know what I mean? And that's just something my father taught me. Like if they're not aligned in what you're doing, then you don't even need to be in communication. Like, so I say that, but at the same time, it's not saying that I'm rude to people who not got stuff going or going in this direction. Not like that. It's just my time. I spend my time with people and that are working on the same thing as me. You know what I mean? And so one of my biggest losses is one of my brothers. It didn't work out. Not to say that it's too late for him. You know what I mean? I hope it still works out. But I pray. I don't even hope. I pray it still works out. All his dreams come true. But we spent a lot of money and it didn't work out.
Could you explain for the
but wait, real quick though, that's my biggest financial loss. I don't consider that my biggest loss.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You put it in financial terms. I
want your biggest loss. Was it a woman? I want your biggest loss, period. What do you consider?
Okay.
Yeah, let it out.
All right, so my biggest loss. Dang, man.
On the road to riches.
If you take money out of it, then I think it would just be, I wish that I continued to educate myself, because for a while there, like the reason I was so dangerous as a kid and the reason I was so successful as a child was because I was constantly self-educating. You know what I mean? But from like 19, like basically from the point that we got on all the way to really after K Camp, there was no self-education process for me. I was just, living life, just having fun. And I stopped educating myself. And I feel like if I had continued to do that, I would be in a way better place in life than I am right now. Not to say that I'm in a bad place, because I'm obviously on top of the world, but I still will be much further along in a lot of my goals. And so one of the things that I hate happen is I don't want to say I felt like I knew it all, but I felt like I was good. I felt like I done put in the work. Now it's just time to enjoy, and now it's just time to grind with music. But I feel I didn't continue to educate myself, and I feel like that was a terrible lapse of judgment, a terrible mistake I made, and I wish I would have, from 19 to 27 maybe. I wish I would have continued to just stay educated and stay trying to learn and stay hungry from that aspect. So that's what I would say is my biggest loss.
I can understand. You don't get that time back. I understand.
Yeah.
So could you explain for the people and also artists, and I kind of have two intertwined with one, the difference between a record label and a distribution? And also, do you think DSPs will be the future of record labels?
Well, excuse me, distribution, record labels do distribute music, you know what I mean? And so what that used to mean was they package and send it to the stores, or really they outsource the packaging, but they have the distribution chain to send it to the stores. But now it simply just means, upload to the internet, you know what I mean? Upload into the DSP. So that's what distribution is now. And so you can sign with a distribution company like an Empire. You can distribute yourself through a TuneCore. A record label is a group of teams. A record label is someone has built a system to help sell your music. You know what I mean? Someone has built a system to help create a brand for you to sell your music. And sell your music now means help your music stream, because that's where our sales come from now, is our streaming revenue. So a record label is a system that someone has built. It could be 2 people, it could be 100 people, you know what I mean? But they put together a system to help you sell your music. That's what a record label is. And a record label very well might not be the actual person distributing your music. They might have a company that they deal with that distributes the music. You know what I mean? So that's the difference there. And I forget the second part of your question.
Do you think DSPs will be the future of record labels? Do you think more people will just be satisfied with, okay, we can cut the record label out, I can go straight to the DSPs now? Because when I see Spotify, what they're doing is they're starting to, they want to put on their playlist, they're saying something like, okay, like if you give us a percentage of your, let's just say if you give 30 cents, if you give us 10 cents, we'll put you on the main download. Yeah. So like, I'm just seeing all this happen before my eyes, and like, are they trying to, you think that they will start signing artists in the future or having partnership directly with artists?
I mean, you got the Drake and Apple situation. So yeah.
But besides, Drake is bigger, but I'm just talking about as far as the future, for as like, just moving on in a few years.
So quietly, because even with DSPs, you're still talking about human beings, you're still talking about people. So most people find it hard to pass up opportunities to make money. So quietly, some people inside of the DSPs are creating situations and systems to where they can sign artists and run it up through their DSP. But no, that's not protocol. You know what I mean? No, that's not what they're built for, and I don't believe that's what they want. As a whole, you know what I mean? I'm like I said, there are people that are making those type of things happen, but as a whole, that's not what they want. They don't want to they don't want to have to deal with the artists like that. You know what I mean? That's not the business model that they want to build. So will people cut out record labels? People are always going to need help. And, you know, I just expressed to you the best way you could what a record label is. And so people are always going to need that. You know, some people don't know how, don't want to know how. You know what I mean? Some people still have the dream of, oh, I want to sign to a major, and it's hard. It's hard to get them out of that dream. And sometimes you just have to let them go up there and see what it's like. And then, you know, either they decide that it's not for them and they try to leave, or, you know, they roll with it. So I think people are forever going to have that dream, at least for the foreseeable future, to be able to sign to major record labels. And I think that the smaller independent distribution situations are going to continue to build and grow, but there's always going to be options. There's never going to be one controls. Like it'll never be one controlling the whole market. It's always going to be, I can go here, I can go there. You know what I mean? No, I don't believe that they're going to get completely cut out. They're always going to be an option.
Facts. Do you think as far as like, because you also had something to do with Q Money, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. He was so Q is from my city. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my guy, man. He's from my city. Mm. I forget, somebody sent me the video of him dancing. I don't remember what year it was, but somebody sent me the video of him dancing. And so I just found a mutual friend that knew him. I reached out to him, flew him to Atlanta, just sort of loved his energy, man. Like it's obvious he's a star. You know what I mean? When you get around him, it's very obvious. So he moved to Atlanta. He stayed with me, and I don't think maybe I was engaged at the time, but nevertheless, either my fiance or my girlfriend, I don't remember which one it was at the time, but he stayed with us for a couple of years while we built him up. And I mean, he was really on his way. Like, I think he was getting like 10 bands this show. Records was streaming like crazy. We signed a deal with Warner, so he got his big advance check. I mean, he was really on his way, but you know, tragic situation happened. He ended up in jail. He still hasn't got a court date, so you know he could be completely innocent, but he's been in jail for 2 years. So I mean, we don't know because he hasn't even had his chance in court. You know what I mean? So that's what I hate about the system here.
Now, do you think not in regards to his situation, but as a whole, how you see like artists, they once they they get involved with drugs, like they're still glorifying the street life. Do you think label owners or not, I don't want to say label owners, but the people that they're working with the label or their team, do you think that they are somewhat responsible? For example, like Famous Dex the other day, how NLE Choppa called him out like, hey, well, he didn't call him out, just basically saying like, hey, can his manager or his team, can somebody wrap their arms around him? Clearly he has a drug problem. You know what I mean? Like, is it, what is, like.
But him saying that is him assuming that they haven't already tried. Right. Or are actively trying. You know what I mean? He doesn't know. That's why he said, I don't get up from business, bro. You don't know. Right. You don't know what they doing for this man. You know what I mean? But obviously this is a grown man. Like, I can't, any of my artists, I can't stop them from doing anything. All I can do is give advice, you know what I mean? Try to be there, but I can't stop them. They don't, like, they're not living under my roof. They're not my children. You know what I mean? They're a person that I'm in business with. This is a partnership. You know what I mean? You may be signed to me, but the contract clearly states this is a partnership. You know what I mean? I don't own you. You feel what I'm saying? You're not my child. So all I can do is advise you.
Well, I mean, labels are attracted to, bullshit. Let's just be honest about it. I mean, they promote a bunch of violence. And I mean, it's not that they promote it. I mean, obviously we engage in it because we, promote it ourselves.
You mean they support, because if they sign this artist and they don't tell the artist what to rap about. The artist raps about that and then they support it.
Right. And that's why I say, we engage in it too. But what I mean is, what I'm getting at is, artists do that because they know, I ain't gonna say they know, they feel like if they're rapping about like back in the 80s and everything, when you were making conscious music trying to uplift the community and whatnot, you only see very few rappers do that, and very few rappers get away with it in today's day and age. Usually you have to come out and ride the wave or come out with something of your own and make a hit with a bunch of backing behind you. And basically that comes out to me, it's usually some gangster stuff, or it's usually some drugs involved, or, cash strippers and whatever else may be.
I would say the top tier rappers are the lyrical rappers.
Of course.
After that, then of course the feels the middle.
I'm not talking about the top tier. I'm talking about vast majority of kids, or vast majority of up and coming artists. They usually follow the trend of, I have to at least be talking about something gangster.
Yeah, and they be nowhere.
Yeah, they be nowhere near. It could be nowhere further from the truth. But they have no choice but to engage in that activity because that's what brings them streams. That's what brings.
That's what
them
they
money.
love. That's what their friends love. They don't want to hear them, rapping about.
But, yeah, I mean, because they're usually marketing to white kids, and white kids want to believe that they want to feel that for a moment. When they listen to that song, they feel like, oh, this is me. You know what I mean? And so that's where that comes from. Well, that's what it is now. Where it comes from, the overarching problem is way bigger, is way before our time, when they decided to say, in order to, take down the Black community, I want to promote them killing themselves. I want to promote these things. That's before our time. You know what I mean? Like, that's a real thing that really happened. They did say, I'm going to put this on Front Street because I want them to be portrayed this way, and I want them to behave this way. Yeah. But again, that's way before all of our time. And so the only positive thing I can say is today, because we have the internet and because we have the DSPs, whatever you're rapping about can make it. I was literally, before I got in this interview, I was watching Yellow Pain. I don't know if y'all know him. He's from Ohio. And I was watching his videos about voting. And I was watching his videos about, that graduation record he got, which is insane. Like, about him telling the story about the mom loving one kid more than the other. Like, you know what I mean? That had 12 million views. They ain't need nobody to come help him promote that. People picked that up and ran with it because that's what can happen now with the internet. You know what I mean? Now people can really decide what they want. They're not getting force-fed the way they force-fed us NWA. You know what I mean? Because now it's up to us to figure out what we want to listen to. So it is a new game. And so they can't control the narrative through music the way they used to be able to. I still believe they can control it through social media. So not to say that they've lost all power, but they've lost it through music for sure. Because now anybody can choose what they want to listen to. You can't force feed them anything. Even the playlist, which is fortunately curated by us. Everybody that curates playlists, I promise you, these are the people I work with every day. They're just like us. They want what's best for us. You know what I mean? They're culture movers. So like, they're not going to promote any BS, which is why 6ix9ine can't get on playlists, which is why Tory Lanez can't get on playlists, because we're in charge of that. You understand what I'm saying? So we're in a much better space today than we were when that was being enforced.
How do they decipher the bull? Like, is it just like, because, a lot of artists do bull crap, and some of them, is it like, okay, you did this is extremely bad, you won't get on the playlist? Or is it like, how do they filter out that?
I mean,
because, for example, if 6ix9ine, if I went to court,
the same way you would.
Okay.
So
the same way you would.
But with only 2 artists though, like, is it like, because how do you? Is it just?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, like, those are the top 2 that came to mind. I remember after XXX got caught beating his girlfriend, they pulled him. Yeah. I mean, it's R. Kelly. They put him for a while. So I mean, those are the examples that come to mind. There may be more, but those are the ones.
Yeah, I think they thinking looking at it as like as a genre, like as trap rap as a whole, as a genre, like just Because
that's what I think.
That's a different thing. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
They're not gonna stop people from talking about trap music. Like, why would they? You know what I mean?
That's why I said it's too profitable.
And then from when you said Jay-Z said he had a line, like one line changed your whole business. So all of
change it, destroyed.
Okay, it destroyed it, changed. Okay, destroyed it. So therefore, if you got all these artists making songs that's demeaning, losing life, killing this, doing that,
demon time.
It's if one line can destroy your business, then I think a lot of these songs can destroy people's lives, and I think it's happening, And then
people are dying off that hype. I mean, people are definitely dying off that hype. But I don't think that's something that.
No, we can't change. We just observe it.
Not even that change. I don't think that's something that we're looking to change. You know what I mean? Like there isn't a Black Lives Matter movement for trap music. Like there isn't a group of people saying, "Get trap music out of here." You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that just doesn't exist.
I got a question. Do you think it was kind of relating to what Myra was talking about earlier when she asked you about labels and everything DSPs taking over labels? Obviously, the big question is with Drake, and it looks like, what we thought Kendrick coming up to be free agents and those type of artists going towards a DSP instead of going back to a label. So do you think that's ever possible that we'll have a smash artist like the Drakes and Kendricks or the J. Coles or something like that actually becomes a free agent, and while they're independently, they choose to go with a DSP over going with the label? Because I don't think Drake and Kendrick's going to do it. So blank check gonna get out of here.
So here's a real life example. Kanye West is working on doing just that, but he's not going to go to a DSP. He's just going to an independent distributor. You know what I mean? So I guess if I use him as an example, then no. You know what I mean? No, I don't think that's gonna happen. Even Jay-Z and Beyonce kept their music off Spotify for a while. But I don't think they would just only put it on Tidal.
Right.
So no, I don't think so.
And lastly, before we get out of here, I know you probably got stuff to do and continue about your day. I want to ask you about the whole, I don't even want to bring up a specific situation, but I guess I'll bring it up. The whole Scooter Braun selling Taylor Swift's masters or her masters, and her having the opportunity to re-record now that music and possibly have her versions out there to make money from. How does that situation work? Like, how does that work? Like he sold her stuff, I believe, what, 300 million? Yeah, her catalog for 300 million. So now if she re-records her catalog with the two catalog, because now you have her catalog being out there and essentially the one that he sold being out there.
So if she were to make like a live version or something like that, to be honest, I don't know. I know how the first part of it worked. You know what I mean? Because when we're talking about masters and ownership, it doesn't mean because someone else owns it that I don't get paid. It only means I don't have the power to control what's done with it when it comes to licensing and things. When it comes to selling it, like Scooter did, like Scooter has the control to say what happens with this with this music because he owns the master. So I know a big misconception, a big thing people think is, oh, if I don't own it, I don't get paid or something like that. No, it doesn't change how you get paid at all. You can own it and not own it and still get paid the exact same way. It only changes who has control over what happens to it, who has say-so over where it goes, because a big part of business is market share and being able to use that market share to sell onto the next thing. You know what I mean? Anytime, even when you take real estate, I'm building up this market share of real estate to be able to leverage it to buy bigger real estate. If that makes sense, if we are in real estate.
Yes.
I'm trying to, I was gonna say, do I need to break it down in different ways?
No, you're good.
Fine. Yeah, we understand.
Okay, right. So when you're in these buildings, the reason they want to control the masters is because that adds to their market share and that gives them more leverage to be able to do the next move that they want to do. You know what I'm saying? So when he sold her what's the name, he didn't sell it for the money. He sold it to make the next move, the next bigger move. You know what I mean? But going back to the other part of the question, I don't know how it's going to work where she can re-record and then put it up. Just bluntly, I don't know how that works. I think that goes into publishing, and it goes into what's the word?
I think T-Boz did the same thing. She re-recorded her
interpolations. It goes into publishing interpolations, which I'm just not a expert at that stuff.
Gotcha.
See, I don't know how it will work. But she should have got paid when they sold her masters, and I'm sure she did.
She made it seem like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
She made it. Well, she made it seem like, I guess she was more upset that she didn't have no knowledge it was sold to the person he sold it to.
Yeah, because he don't gotta ask. He don't gotta ask because he
didn't console her or nothing. He just sold it.
Yeah.
Right.
Outside of music, what else you got your money in? Making money from?
Real estate, stocks, private equity. One of my favorite things that I'm just learning about is just investing in companies before they go public. It's private equity, and so this is one of the ways that before Barack Obama, we just didn't have access to, because you had to have a certain network. It's every time I want to say a word, it slips my mind. Accredited investor. You got to be an accredited investor to be able to invest into private equity, invest in private companies, which means you have to have a certain net worth. You know what I mean? Until Barack Obama came along and implemented the jobs plan, which made it eligible for everybody to be able to invest in sort of like seed rounds and credit A's rounds. But anyway, I say that to say I've been doing a lot of studying. I've been in a lot of different circles, figuring out which companies I want to invest in. So I've invested in 4 now. And you hear a lot about this in the news now, because Nas does a lot of investing. That's what happened with 50 Cent, Beyonce. You know what I mean? They do a lot of investing in private companies.
Millionaire Spectacular, all of them.
Yeah. So that's kind of my favorite thing, because it's probably gonna have the biggest return. You know what I mean? But other than that, real estate, stocks. But the stocks are more so almost, how you have a 401k retirement plan?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so those, since I do have a situation at Alamo, but normally, before Alamo, I didn't have a W-2 job. I always worked for myself. Mm-hmm. And so there was no 401k plan for me. And so I sort of created my own. And so that's what the stocks are for me. I have a financial advisor that oversees those stocks, and I invest money into it every month. Are
you into Bitcoin? You on that train?
So I did that in 2016. I'm not doing it right now, but I think I made about 50-something thousand off of Bitcoin back in 16 or 17, which was great, but it was nowhere near where I saw other people make. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I was not to say that I wasn't happy about my money, but I saw people become millionaires from it. You know what I mean? So, if I would have known about it earlier, I definitely would have made a lot more money. But this time, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Now, I was just say this time around, I didn't do anything with it.
Okay.
Because it just hit. I think a couple people got paid off.
It went to like 19, and then I think it came back down to around 17. But no, I didn't mess with it this time, just because, sometimes when you win, you get excited.
Smile on his face.
You
got a lot of money coming in. You got a smile on your face. You say,
it's just like,
that's the smile.
It's like I beat the system once. Yeah. I don't want to test it again and lose. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I already hit it for 50 bands. Yeah. I don't want to try my luck again and lose. You know what I mean? So it's like, because I already beat the system, I'm like, I'm not finna play with it again. So I was like, nah, let me just sit out this time around.
I got one last question for you before we get out of here. When you were, being in a managerial position in entertainment, I got a question. Where does a manager have to I say, set his boundaries between business and personal when it comes to managing an artist. Because you see some managers out here, they're on the road with the artist, which is fine, but I see some of them at the shows with the artists. I see some of them engage in confrontation with the artist online and whatnot. Like, where do you draw the line?
Like defending the manager, like me defending the artist?
I mean, yeah, like say artists have personal beefs, online beefs and whatnot. And then, you know, you'll see some managers jump in and like, you know, hey, you know, like you said, defend their artists, but they have something personal going on. Like they have some actual stuff that goes on back to their neighborhood that they're serious about.
Right.
So where does the manager draw the line when it comes to those type of situations where they need to, I should say, how do they behave or should they behave?
It's so crazy because I feel like it almost really just depends on age and maturity level. You know what I mean? Because it's not even about I'm your manager. It's just like, am I mature enough to say I don't have nothing to do with that? You know what I mean? Like, or am I mature enough to say like, hey, listen, bro, I got a family. I'm not finna beef about nothing that petty. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's a dynamic of I'm your manager and you're my artist. It's just a dynamic of when I was 20, I would argue with you. But I'm 35 now, I don't got the time to argue with you. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think it's more of that. It's just all about the person and where they are in life. Because this is like family. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's always been that way. So I'm gonna defend somebody for sure. But if it's some petty young stuff and I got a 21-year-old artist doing some petty stuff, I'm gonna tell him about it behind closed doors, like never in public. You know what I mean? But behind closed, I'm like, bro, you know, that makes no sense. You know what I mean? But so to answer your question, I really just think it's about the individual person and where they are in life versus manager-artist relationship. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing wrong with being on the road with them. Like that's business. I'm taking care of my business. You know what I mean? So being on the road with them and being around them, it's me taking care of my business. It's not even a thing about I'm too close to them. I'm just handling business. You know what I mean?
Do you think it's hard for some of the managers to tell the artists like, you know, this not worth it, this petty? Because you see a lot of yes men, I ain't gonna say yes men, but you see a lot of managers okaying artists to do crazy stuff. Like, yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah. Oh yeah, you want to tweet that? Yeah, go ahead, man. Oh, you want to go here? Yeah, come on, let's go. You know,
that's a different story because this game is about attention. The more attention I can garner, the more money I can make. So that's a little different. Like, have I ever encouraged my artists to start a beef? Yes. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't even front with you. You know what I mean? Like, but it's not a beef where like, you know, we finna be fighting and nothing like that. It's just online stuff. You know what I mean? Because like sometimes, bro, it just works better. You know what I mean? So if it's for business purposes, which sounds stupid, I know, but if it's for business purposes, I've done it before. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, no, I would never do that. No, I've done it. I've definitely done it, but to the degree where people is like fighting in real life, no, I've never encouraged anybody to go fight somebody.
I mean, listen, if you in the club with your artist and a fight break out, and, you know, they talking about, hey, you know, your artist come to you and tell you he finna go pop the trunk, you know, as his manager, what do you do?
I've been in those situations though. I've been in those situations, but I mean, that's why we got security. Like we've never not had security, like ever. You know what I mean? So I remember the very first show we had with K-Camp, his mom asked us, do we think we need security? And I said no. And she was like, nah, I think we should send them anyway. And sure enough, we needed them. Listen, we got in the club, we was in our little section, and one of the girls, you know, her dude was there, but she wanted to be in the section with us. So the dude was salty about that. And so the dude tried to snuff Camp. Like after we had performed and we leaving out the club, bro, first of all, they flattened our tire, which was like very smart. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was like, dang,
you're stranded now.
These niggas are clever.
It was very smart, but whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, so they flattened our tire. But anyway, we was walking out the club, and I was probably two people behind K-Camp. It was him, a couple people, and me. And I remember the security for some reason was behind me, and I don't know how he peaked this, but all I know is I saw him like move around me, come back like this, pow, hit the dude, and I didn't even know what was going on, but the dude was reaching back to hit Camp, because Camp for some reason was first. Dude was reaching back to hit Camp. Security came, 3 people back, caught him. Talking about knocked his whole body. Like, you ever seen somebody look like they got hit by an earthquake?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
talking about, bro, whole body just collapsed. You know what I'm saying? I was like, whoa, like.
So we needed that security.
Yeah, so listen, we needed the security. That was a great call by his mama. I appreciated her for that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, let's before we get out of here, you just tell me how you guys signed like Durk, work with Durk and Rod Wave.
So Durk and Rod Wave were both there when I came. I came June 2019. It just hadn't popped yet. And I say that for Durk, in the sense that everybody knew who he was, but he just hadn't ascended as we see him ascend now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He was still just, sort of like a seasoned artist. You know what I mean? Everybody knew who he was, aware of him. He was making good music, but he hadn't popped all the way to where we see him now, where we would consider him like a top 5 artist. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, both of them were there. Rod had a record called Heart on Ice, and it was actually the very first thing I did when I started at Alamo was talking to Carl Cherry, who runs Spotify. And I said, hey man, this record right here is gonna blow. I said, we got this kid Rod Wave. I was like, literally at the time, I think almost 90% of Rod streams were coming from Florida. Like, so nobody outside of Florida had heard of him. But I was telling Carl, like, yo, he got Florida on lock. Like, he took over Florida. All we gotta do is put him on the main stage and he gonna blow. And so my very first move was taking Heart on Ice, and Carl added it to Most Necessary. And then with Durk, Rod was a little easier. Rod was a little easier because he was new. But with Durk, for some reason, he just wasn't working on Spotify. He was too street, maybe. You know what I mean? Spotify is like the radio. Spotify is single driven, whereas Apple Music is album driven, is hood driven. Like the urban landscape is Apple Music, whereas Spotify is the radio landscape. Because you got to think about most people that can afford Spotify are more well off. You know what I'm saying? The higher average of income households have Spotify, whereas Apple, it's not like that. Like, all of us had an iPhone, you know what I mean? So anyway, he wasn't really working at Spotify. And so to get him to where he was at now, it took us figuring out a way to get him to work. And I salute Carl, because Carl forced it a lot. You know what I mean? Like, that's my guy. I was like, bro, we got to make him work on Spotify. We got to make him work. And Carl would put him in Rap Caviar. Even when it wasn't doing good, he was just trying to help make sure Durk became Durk. You know what I mean? And so this is definitely a relationship business. I've succeeded this far because I have those great relationships like that, to be able to have those open, honest conversations with people like Carl, and them to support me even when it's not in the best interest for the moment. You know what I mean? So it's a dope situation to have, man. It's a dope thing to be able to, take the Durks and take them up through there, take Rod up through there. Pretty fortunate, man. Pretty happy to be where we are.
You think we'll ever get rid of the urban term?
I mean, I know some people have called for that. I'm not the best person to ask that, because I'm not as sentimental as some people.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, I don't care. It don't matter to me. Mm-hmm. But I know to some people it matters a lot. So I'll let them carry that fight, and I'll even support them in that fight. But just personally, I'm not that.
Right.
I'm not that good person. Yeah.
Give me the money. That's all we care about.
Well, definitely appreciate it. And this is very insightful, helpful. You opening up, telling us your story, the things that you've been through in the industry, and how you got your start. Like, we definitely appreciate it.
Nah, I appreciate y'all for having me, man. Thank y'all for reaching out to me, man. I'm very happy I did this. I want to make sure you guys go to where you want to go. So any favors you need from me, let me know.
Okay, we're gonna let you.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be in touch with you for sure.
Yeah,
we definitely going to be in touch. So,
we'd love to have you back for sure.
Let me know. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. It was cool, but I don't think I like that.
No, let me know.
Yes, sir.
I got you.
I was reading text at the top of my computer.
Oh, okay.
Got you.
Well, again, thank you. We will be in touch. We will be in touch with you. And
have a blessed day, bro.
Enjoy the rest of your day and keep it up. Congratulations to everything, your success, your investments. Like, keep it up. We love to see things like this, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I wish y'all much success as well.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.